Hi, Nexus parents. It's Miss Gallegos, the counselor. I know it's been a while since I've come to you with a video, but I just wanted to reach out today and give you some tips. Just recently, I'm hearing from more and more people about the anxieties that they're feeling, both over virtual learning, but also the anxieties that our kiddos are starting to express about going back to school. Because let's face it, like, I don't ever hear too many kids that are like, I love school. I know that there's a lot that do, and we want them to, but a majority of the times the kids are like, I don't want to go to school. So now we've been home for 8 months, and returning to school probably feels a little scary because they don't know what to expect, but also they've enjoyed the freedoms and the little bit less structure of being at home. So I'm going to just give you some tips about how we can start preparing our kiddos. I'll come to you over the next few weeks to share more tips. And these tips are good whether you are staying at home learning or whether you're going to be sending your child back to school. As I say, my key phrase is that parenting is hard. And now parenting in a pandemic has even become harder, right? And part of that is because typically when we're dealing with our kids' emotions, we as adults hopefully have a set of coping skills that we've developed over the years as we've matured and we've encountered situations in our life. But our children don't have that. So a lot of the times as parents, what we're doing is we're lending them our coping skills. We are saying, we know that this doesn't feel good, but you will be okay because, and we fill in the blank and use whatever skills that we know are comforting and help us. And we give those to our children to let them borrow, so to speak, while they're developing their own. But in the last few months, as we've been going through this, like, we don't have a set of coping skills to deal with this ourselves because we've never been through this before. So it's really hard to emotionally be there for our children when we have our own anxieties without knowing what the expectations are, right? So here's a couple of things, and I know you've probably heard some of these over and over and over again, but I just want to remind you because research just shows how important these couple of tips are to not only helping your child feel more secure, but also helping you, mom and dad. So the two tips I want to share with you today that can work, again, whether you're going back into in-person learning or whether you're going to keep your children at home in virtual learning, is routine. I know that you've probably heard the suggestion of routine so many times that you've run out of fingers and toes to even count them. So the reason why routine is so important is it gives you a sense of knowing of what's coming next. And when you know, then you feel like you're in control. So when you're not in control, then that's when those feelings of anxiety or uncertainty just can take hold of our minds and just make us feel like we're so insecure. That's what anxiety is when it just can have a grip on our thoughts and our emotions. So routines help a child or help any person feel in control because then they know what's coming next. When a child has a greater sense of control, they are able to better regulate their stress emotions, which helps to keep them calm. As a parent, we know that when our child is emotionally regulated, then we become much more emotionally calm also, right? So when we're upset, we make our child upset. When our child's upset, it makes us upset. And then all of a sudden we've got this ping-ponging back and forth of anxiety that nobody is able to overcome. So create a routine and stick with your routine. So when we know that our child has a routine, so I'm going to just be like super honest, like, it's been hard to be organized and in a routine in our homes because we're used to our homes being a little bit more of a relaxed space, and now we're having to have a more structured routine. So for those of us, like my personality, it's really hard to stay in a routine, especially in my home. That's my non-routine area. To actually create a routine and then stick with it has made me more productive at my work tasks that I now need to do in my non-routine space. So I set my alarm clock, I get up, I take a shower, and I get ready as if I were leaving the house so that I can then go to my workspace and do what I need to do. Do the same thing for yourselves and for your children. Create a routine and then stick with it so that it feels somewhat normal as if you were leaving your space. The second tip that I would like to give to you is rest. Plan, adjust, and accommodate for adequate rest periods for you and your children. Like, again, you have to remember that you are in your rest space, your home, a space where we usually are a little bit less structured, now requiring, high levels of structure. And so it's creating some stress where, usually we go to school or we go to work. And then at the end of our work school day, we go home and then we have probably still some structure, but for the most part, unstructured rest time. So I want to make sure that you are planning for moments of rest. We are a culture that values busyness, and oftentimes we greatly underestimate the value and necessity of rest. When we rest, complex activities are actually taking place within our bodies to rebuild structure, to rebuild cell structure. It also helps to regulate emotions. So subsequently, if we're not resting, so inadequate rest will lead to unbalanced hormones that contribute, it actually shows to contribute to aggression, poor memory, inadequate functioning for decision making, mood stability. So what I noticed personally is in the beginning stages of quarantine back in March, everybody was forced to slow down. That value of family and rest that we had all been fighting that we wanted, we were now just given this beautiful gift to be able to engage in. When I took walks around the neighborhood, I was noticing dads playing kids in the driveway, playing basketball with them in the middle of the day. Homes where I'd never even seen dads before because dads were busy working outside the home. Whole families riding bikes. My husband and I decided to get bikes, and we had to search literally for like 2 months to find a bike because they were all sold out. Like, so many things that were pleasurable and enjoyable that we could do as families, people were now doing. But now that businesses and schools have started to reopen over the last few months, I'm seeing less of that rest time, and definitely it's being replaced with more anxieties and stress around work performance. For kids, what I'm hearing from parents and then from older kids that can verbally tell me what's going on, they're feeling a lot of stress and I'm sorry, I've got a mosquito flying around me. They're feeling a lot of stress and anxiety around feeling like they have to pick up or perform at the same level that they were when we went on quarantine, and feeling like there's been a gap in their learning and there's going to be some skills that they're missing. So they feel like if they try, they're going to fail because we're out of practice, right? They've been out of practice. So please look at ways virtually and leading up to going back to school that you can find moments still throughout your day to walk away from school and work responsibilities and just play. Play doesn't have to mean like you're playing child games. It means doing something that's intentionally unstructured, that's enjoyable, where there's laughter and it's not a stressful time. Overstimulation creates stress, so we need to look for ways to remove the stimulation. Stress in children will usually lead to negative emotions, even when we're asking them to do simple tasks. So if you're starting to notice that your child's crying when you're asking them to do something simple like put on your shoes, or they're responding negatively, maybe take the time to do some play. Take a time for rest. Intentionally practice restful periods and start to create a routine around sleep patterns. Remember that sleep supports emotional regulation and proper brain functioning. So I'm giving you permission right now to take a nap. Please know that I care about you. I care about your children. Like I say all the time, we're on this journey together. We are returning together. And for all the obstacles that we will overcome, we will figure out solutions together. Please reach out to me if you have any questions or concerns, and I'll talk to you soon.